Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to have with me Annette Franz. Hi, Annette.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a great conversation.
Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to start the discussion with you. But perhaps for, let's say, the last two, three people on the world that don't know you, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course, of course. So I have, I'm founder and CEO of CX Journey Inc., which is my own consulting firm. I've been out on my own consulting for the last 4 years, but I've actually been in this customer experience space for almost 30 years. I started my career back in 1992 at JD Power and Associates, and really sort of watched the evolution of customer experience. Back in the day, it wasn't even called customer experience; it was called customer satisfaction. We talked about customer loyalty, CRM, customer relationship management, those kinds of things. But so I spent over the last 30 years, I've spent probably 20 of those years on the vendor side running consulting services organizations. I've also had 3 stints on the client side. And here I am for the last 4 years running my own consulting business. So it's been probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Thank you very much for your introduction. And what I would like also to point out is that you are a CXPA board member, the Customer Experience Professional Association's a board member. I am a CXP and therefore even
Awesome.
more happy to be part of this discussion.
Yes, I am just, last year I was the board chair. I've been a board member. This is now my 6th year. This will be my last year. I am the immediate past chair this year, and serving the association it's been an honor for me, really, to help to advance this profession and to help other folks. It's been very cool. It's been very cool.
Thank you very much. And let's start the discussion. And as usual, I would like to discuss about this
Yeah.
book.
Thank you. And I saw a bunch of post-it notes there too. So
Yes, I really use it on a daily basis,
nice.
and I really enjoy it because it's full of insights. But it's not me to explain the book. Now it's your turn to
It's
give
my
some
turn.
insights on your book. And I know you spoke about your book quite often. We know that you are also going to publish a new version, but let's stay on this book.
Perfect.
And the structure is extremely simple and understandable. You have three main topics. After the introduction, you start with the listen, characterize, and then and the last part, empathize. And perhaps I start with some question. I know that quite a lot of the questions came directly from the book, but
Perfect.
I think you wrote this book and quite a lot of people are still discussing about it. What I'm seeing is businesses are still organized in products. Every business has one silos for one product, and it's quite difficult to find out this matrix in where the customer are. What's your view on that?
Yeah, that happens quite often. I'm working with a couple of clients right now where that is the situation. And like to say, these companies are finding customers for their products and not products for their customers. And that's really frustrating, right? Because if you spend time designing a product, who are you designing it for? So you really need to bring the customer into the organization. And since you read the book, you know what the last chapter of the book is all about, right? It's that open letter to the CEO to say, why is this so hard? Why is it so hard why do we have to show ROI for customer experience initiatives and those kinds of things? Why is it so hard to understand that you are in business because of and for the customer? And so, yeah, so I'm all about, if we listen to our customers, then we will design and develop products for them to meet their needs and help them do whatever it is that they're trying to do, not the other way around. Because I think if you focus on the product, then what ends up happening is it's ultimately going to fail at some point, I think, just because it's not necessarily meeting the needs. And so you're constantly iterating and trying to figure out what your customers are saying and doing and why it's not working for them. And if you started with the customer, I think you'd be a lot more successful, a lot quicker.
And I think it starts everything with the customer, because without customer, it's quite difficult to have a business.
Exactly.
In your first chapter, you're really discussing and explaining this the part of the listening. What's the most important insight that you have in the book that you would like to share with the audience?
With regards to listening,
Yes.
I would say that it's not just about listening. So listening is, I put 3 components in that. So it's not just about surveys. I think that's the important point to the listening aspect of this. So listening is about asking, which is surveys, any, feedback, any way that you're asking your customers for feedback. It's also listening, which is any way that they prefer to give feedback. So it's, it's online reviews or social media or those kinds of things. And then the third component of it, which I think is really important, is what I call capture. So ask, listen, and capture. And capture is all about the breadcrumbs of data that customers leave behind when they interact or transact with the business. And then taking all that, both what you know from the attitudinal to the behavioral, and combining it, bringing it all together, you will have such a great understanding of your customer's experience and the expectations, and be able to design product, services, and the experience that really it meets their needs. So I think that's the key, is that listening is really about not just the feedback, but also the other data, and combining it.
I think nowadays it's everything about data, and it's important to leverage this data and this information. And now we are already going to the second chapter. It's all about characterize. It means you are speaking and describing personas. Perhaps also for the audience, could you please do step back and make for us understandable the difference between segments, buyer persona, and then the personas that we are using in customer experience, or we should use in customer experience to create this journey map?
Yeah. This is a great topic to talk about, because I often hear people talking about segments when they're talking about designing, even when they're going to do their journey mapping workshops. And segments are really, really high level, right? It's imagine taking a look at the world and saying, okay, we're going to split up the world into 5 regions. And those are our segments. Or we're going to look at our, customer population, and we're going to split them up by age or by some demographic, right? And that's going to be the segment that we're going to focus on. And the one that I like to use is because they do this a lot. They talk about this a lot here in the States, is around, a prime demographic is men 18 to 49 years old. Well, I have a 19-year-old son, and I have a boyfriend who's 52. There's not a lot that they have in common for a lot of different things, and especially not in terms of the problems they're trying to solve, and their needs and expectations and those kinds of things. So to look at and try to design an experience at such a high level is really not useful at all. Then buyer personas are typically what your marketing folks develop to get folks through the buyer funnel, right? And that's really when they do the research to develop those personas, it's pretty high level too. It's demographics, it's preferences, it's why they buy what they buy, those kinds of things, right? And it's very high level as well. It's not the level of detail that we need for what I just called like the CX design personas, and those CX personas are probably more in line with what your UX teams do in terms of developing personas, which is you can take those buyer personas, but then you want to add more detail to them, and they'll probably break apart into more personas by taking a look at what are their pain points, what are their needs, what are their expectations, what are their preferences, what jobs are they trying to do, those kinds of things, and really getting to that level of detail to get to the persona that you want to use then to design the experience. And the beauty of starting with the persona at that level to design the experiences, it takes us one step closer to then the next step is personalizing the experience for the individual in front of you. So you want to get down into the what are they doing, thinking, and feeling, in terms of the persona that we want to develop for designing the experience.
Thank you. And I think this is really key, and also trying to start with one example. It's a super easy one, but every company is saying we need an app, and we need to push out the app as quick as possible. And then we have one app with some features that should fit for everybody. Right. And it's extremely difficult to make understandable for these C-levels, that to tell them, yes, you have now one app, but now you need to personalize that and to create different journeys for different personas. Right. What's your view on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I just about a week or so ago did a presentation for some of the executives of health clubs, gyms around the globe, right? And one of the things that we talked about, obviously, because a lot of the gyms have been closed for the last year, a lot of them have been closed for the last year. And so again, same kind of thing, developing an app, and which is great. That's what they've had to do, and a lot of them have been able to succeed, stay alive because of that. But again, to your point, the needs of, for example, somebody who's a bodybuilder are very different from somebody who's 55 plus, or there. I think that group is often referred to as the silver sneakers or something like that. So they're very different needs. So they have, when they go to use the app, they have different information that they want to see. They have different workouts that they want to do, that kind of things. So you really do have to understand your user and put them on a path, even in an app, put them on a path that's going to meet their needs.
Clear. And I think we are also coming to the third chapter of your book. It's about Empathize, and there you are speaking quite a lot about walk in the customer shoes. And yep. I try always to move that or rephrase that. It's not only walk in the customer shoes, but it's feel, smell, and like the customer. And yes. And there, then when you really feel as a customer the pain that you have going through some journeys, or waiting 20 minutes at the phone, or requiring to get a signature, or getting back some request because you didn't feel properly a form, it's extremely important. Yeah. Do you have some suggestion there?
Yeah, it's this is one of my favorite topics, right? Because I think that journey mapping is probably one of the most powerful tools that you can use when it comes to understanding your customers, and then especially understanding the experience that they're having today, and then redesigning the experience for tomorrow. I always say that they do so much in terms of informing your customer experience strategy. So powerful tool, powerful process to do just that. I agree with you. It really is about getting into their heads, into their hearts, really feeling and seeing and smelling and doing what it is that they are doing, right? And that's why it's so important when we map the customer journey that we actually do it with customers. So I'm having I'm having those conversations with clients every day. No, we're not going to map with employees. We've got to bring customers in the room because we want to hear what they're experiencing, what they're seeing and doing and feeling and thinking.
And in the book, you are explaining the process really in a structured way with all the relevant step. Perhaps what I am also seeing in different discussion and in different workshops, quite a lot of people are saying, let's directly go to the to-be journey. And then we work on the to-be journey, because we don't want to lose time creating the as-is journey, improving that, and then defining the roadmap to get to the to-be journey. Perhaps do you have also there some support that we can use as a CX professional to explain why it's so important?
Yeah, and I always like to say, you can't transform something you don't understand. So first of all, there are, in my journey mapping process, there are 6 steps, and the 3 key steps are, the other 3 are sort of supporting and really important as well. But the 3 key workshops that we have are the current state. First thing is current state, then the service blueprint, then the future state. And the current state, what really ends up happening when we map the current state first is it allows us to you sort of do these tactical fixes today, because when we go and design the future state, that takes time. That takes a lot of time, right? So it might actually be a year before the experience that you design today as the ultimate or the ideal experience of the future, you're going to revamp the systems and the processes and the whole, you're going to upend everything, right, to design that new experience most likely. And so if we can take a look at the current state today and fix what's going wrong today, and not just tactically, but which is why we need to create the service blueprint, so we can fix what's happening on the inside as well. But making changes, making those improvements today to technically hold us over until we're able to design and implement the future state experience. So that's really why it's so important to start with the current state, because the future state, it takes time, and your customers may be gone by the time you get that one implemented. So it really is sort of a step-by-step process there.
The next topic that I would like to discuss with you, it's also quite a lot of people are saying, okay, let's work on the to-be journey, everything designed, or you get a mandate, work on the to-be journey, and then people start on the interface to the customer. And then, as you mentioned that, but I would like really to deep dive a bit on that, it's you need also the service blueprint and also the technological piece. Because if you fix first the piece that it's the interface to the customer, then you don't get the budgets to fix all the steps that you should really fix. And also there, how are you discussing this topic with the C-suite that it's important to start, for example, digitalizing processes from the core to the customer and not backwards?
Yeah, and I think, I'll answer that question first. I have oftentimes have the CEO or some of the executives sitting in on the workshops, and if you're a human being with a heart and you see what your brand is putting your customers through, there have been so many times where having the CEO in the room has really been so eye-opening that the CEO has said right away, I can't believe we make our customers go through all of those steps, or we cause so much pain for our customers. We need to fix this. So I think that's a really important thing to do, is to keep those executives involved in the process so that they can really understand. I think some of them are so high level and so far away from the customer most of the time, right, that they don't even realize how painful the experience is for customers. So
I think you're touching two extremely important topics, and I think these are key success factors. One is the cultural aspect of the customer journey mapping, and the second one is on the leadership. Perhaps one step after the other, discussing about the cultural aspect of this process and of what we are doing. Also there, what I often see is the executive outside that they identify a technology. I want to do something with AI. This is do a project, create something for me, and delight the customer.
Yeah.
and I think these are also an issue that you are facing often.
Yeah, you know what? Here's what I say to the latter point about technology, right? You can't just throw technology at this and say we did CX, right? But it just doesn't work that way. Technology really is a tool that enables and facilitates the experience that the customer is having. The experience is very much human, and the experience is very much emotional. And technology and saying that, okay, well, we just threw some technology at it, so the experience is fine, is not the right way to go about it. Absolutely not. It's, again, it will help to facilitate the experience, but it is not the experience, because the experience, like I said, is very much human. Your point about culture is really important too, because when people come to me and want to do these journey mapping workshops, I often ask, well, do you even have the foundation in place to go and do something with what you've learned, right? Because if you don't, then you'll probably be spinning your wheels, and you will absolutely 110% need to get your CEO into those workshops so that he or she can understand the experience that the customer is having today, and to understand why this culture is so important. So culture is really the foundation of all of it, right? Because if you have this customer-centric culture in place, the things that you learn from, whether it's listen, characterize, and empathize, are automatically going to be used and incorporated into everything that the business does. All the discussions, all the decisions, all the designs, like I like to say, and it'll be incorporated into that. And the customer will be at the center of all of that. And, it just makes everything easier when that culture is already in place.
Sure, and I think what you are mentioning, and you mentioned that several times, it's about having the CEO sitting in this discussion, being part of this discussion. And I think this is something that for us CX professionals is always difficult to get the involvement of the top management. Perhaps do we have some secret ingredients or secret hints that we can leverage?
Well, here's the thing with the CEO and the executives, right? So first of all, we have to appeal to both sides of their brains, right? So we have to appeal to the analytical side, and we have to appeal to the emotional side. And with the analytical side, it's all about numbers. It is all about the ROI and building the business case and showing, if we do this, here's how it will impact the business. So that side is all about the data and having that data in place. The other side, the emotional side, is, like I just said, having them in the journey mapping workshops and allowing them to see, like I said, anybody with a heart is gonna is gonna say, wow, I don't believe we put our customers through so much pain. Telling customer stories, bringing customer stories in, and really helping them understand the customer emotion that goes into this experience. Having an immersion program where the executives go out and they sit with customers as they are using the products or experiencing the services or whatever. Another thing that I like to do too is to tie the experience work to perhaps some project or passion project that the executive might have. So what legacy do they want to leave with the organization? How do they want to be remembered, as they leave the organization or leave this world, is what do you want that to be? And so if you can make that connection with your employee, with your executives as well, I think that's an important way to get that commitment and involvement from them.
Thank you very much. I think these are really key topics, and perhaps based on the fact that I have you on the show, I need to ask also this question. We spoke about processes, we spoke about customer, and I would like to spend the next 5 minutes also on the employees. I was already participating to several workshops, to several webinars where you were discussing about employee experience, and you have really a nice pyramid where you are explaining the importance of the employees. Perhaps also some insights why it's important to involve also employees in this journey mapping.
Yeah, to involve them in the journey mapping is key, right? Because and one of the things that I say when two things, I'll come back to the service blueprint, but the other thing that I say about when they're involved in the journey maps is to not just involve the people who are, so for example, I always like to use this example, if you're mapping the customer experience as they're trying to get support, calling in or emailing or whatever with your contact center. You don't want to just have in that workshop, you don't want to just have folks from the customer service department, right? You want to have people from marketing, from sales, from the product, product design, from product marketing, because sales sold the dream, marketing's messaging was off, the product design was faulty, the documentation or the information about the product was inaccurate or whatever it was, something caused the customer to ultimately get in touch with your service department and customer service department to get help with something or to answer a question. So if we bring in employees from other departments that are sort of tangentially involved in that journey, they get to hear the pain that the customer is having, and then things get fixed upstream. And what ends up happening is if marketing, sales, product marketing get everything right, then that ultimately should reduce the volume on your contact center as well. So that's pretty key there. So there's that. So I think that's important. The second thing that I want to mention about employees is that a lot of times, a lot of people think that the employee experience, customer experience connection happens at the front line. And it doesn't just happen at the front line. Yes, frontline are critical because they're face-to-face or they're on the phones speaking directly with your customers, but your back office employees are also really important to the customer experience. And one of the best ways that we can make that connection for them is to do that service blueprint, because the service blueprint, shows, the people, the tools, the systems, the processes, the policies, the things that are behind the scenes that are, again, supporting and facilitating the experience that the customer is having. And what gets, from that map, from that blueprint, what employees can see is how they're connected to the customer's experience. And they get to call out where their experience is broken down as well, because if the policies are outdated, or if the processes are broken, or if they don't have the tools or the right tools or outdated tools, then of course they can't deliver the experience that customers deserve. And their experience is pretty rough too, because they don't have the things that they need to do their jobs and to do them well.
I think this is an outstanding answer, and what you're saying, it's what customers deserve, and this is really the key. And I would like to close this first part of the discussion with one sentence out of your book. It's not pre-aligned, but you mentioned the letter to the CEO. And at the end, it's the letter to the CEO. It's Annette writing to the CEO, and it stated, if you need a little reality check, pause for a moment and imagine your business with no customers. And I think this is really key, and it's a sentence that I remember, and I also try to give to the older people, because this is really the essence of customer experience.
It is the essence. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great point.
The second part, it's a shorter one, but for me it's extremely important, because at the end we are in a human to human business, and therefore we would like to learn a bit more about you. And you are really successful. You wrote a book, you have your own consulting firm. And how can you ensure to have a satisfactory life-work balance?
Well, I'm going to ask you the same thing, because I would like to know. You know what? Here's the interesting thing. I think with everything that happened in the last year with the pandemic and the lockdown and everything, I think it really forced, I would say us, but it really forced me to have a better work-life balance. You know, I have 2 kids. I have a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old, 2 boys, and, you know, they're everything to me. And, you know, I can't just sit here and work all day long. You know, I need to step away and take care of them and their needs and feed them. And, you know, but, you know, they really do help to bring that balance into my life, because I want to spend time with them. Right. So, you know, but I always start my day with working out. I think for me, that's a good way to really, you know, clear your head, think about what the day is going to look like. And just, it's my sanity is what I say. So, you know, and, you know, a new thing that I've incorporated into my life is about once a month is just to take some time off, take a long weekend, whether it's 3 days or 4 days, and just step away from it all. And when I come back, I'm a lot more refreshed and ready to go. So, because it's, you know, it's been unpredictable. It's been a little crazy. So those are some of the things that I've incorporated into my life, just to try to have a little bit more work-life balance.
I'm not going to answer the question that you asked me, because it's 10 p.m. and I am
and you're still working. Exactly.
But this was the question to you. No, and the next question is for sure. I will publish also the link to your book. Is there a book that you are reading, or that you say this book it was really important in my career?
You know, there's a book that I don't know that it's necessarily my career, but it certainly reinforces a lot of the things that I believe in. It's a book by Hal Rosenthal. It's called The Customer Comes Second. And that's not intuitive to people, but basically what he says is that the customer comes first, really, but the employee comes more first, right? So really it's the employee. So it's that whole connection between the employee experience and the customer experience. And it's such a powerful book, because he gives examples that are just, and he tells you how to do it. I mean, the company, Rosenbluth International, I mean, they're a huge travel business, right? They've been around for many years. He wrote the book in 1990, I believe it was. And it's funny, because the way that he talks about technology and how they use technology, of course it was different. It was IBM mainframes, it was fax machines, it was different technology, but it's basically the same conversation and how we talk about technology today, 30 years later, you know, so it's pretty crazy. But great book, because like I said, it's so true. The employee customer connection is real. And he gives some really great examples and tells you how to do it to make sure that the employee really is more first.
Thank you very much. And the second last question, it's the usual one. If somebody would like to contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Through my website, cx-journey.com, or on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with folks on LinkedIn.
And you have an outstanding newsletter. This is really great of insights, and therefore please also apply to get the newsletter. And this is my very last question, Annette. This is about your gold nugget. It's something that we discussed, or something that we didn't discuss, but you would leave to the audience.
Yeah, I think I'll say 2 things. The first one is that culture really is the foundation of everything that you're doing, right? So make sure that you do the things that you need to do to ensure that your business is, it is a customer-centric culture. And really what that means is that it starts from the top, right? The CEO, it's deliberately designed to be that way. The culture is deliberately designed to be that way. And the CEO has committed to putting the customer's best interests into everything that the business does. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing really is about the employee customer connection. Take care of your employees and they will take care of the customers. And ultimately that means they'll be taking care of the business as well. So.
Thank you for these 2 gold nuggets. I am not commenting them because these are Annette's gold nuggets. The last thing that I want to say is, Annette, thank you very much. It was really a big pleasure to have you on my show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is a conversation, like I said, you and I can have for a long, long time, many, many days, but thanks for wrapping it up in a nice little nugget in 30 or 35 minutes.
And also to the audience, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Arrivederci. Grazie mille.